Hello and welcome. It's a new year, it's a new show, and it's hopefully a new me as well. I've lost some weight over the Christmas period. Quelle surprise. So the new show is called The Great Britain Show in association with the Voice of London and ALB UK Television. So today's show, we're going to talk about Boris Johnson and Keir Starmer. We're going to talk about the Ukraine situation. We're going to talk about Christian Eriksen coming to London to play football. And lastly, we're going to come and talk about the Guardian newspaper in London really highlighting the values of Albanian terrorism. Wow, what an incredible week it is at the moment in British politics and for the British people as well. It's an incredible time when I watch the antics that are going on in Downing Street at the moment and in Parliament. You would wonder, are we listening to a government and known as the mother of all parliaments, or are we listening to a bunch of clowns? Who knows? But yesterday, as we all saw on our screens, the reality that Boris Johnson and Sir Keir Starmer locked horns over what was happening with the Sue Gray report, which is really highlighting all the alleged parties that have been going on in Downing Street and surrounding buildings, government buildings, when they shouldn't have been, as they were in lockdown themselves as well. The whole country is in outcry over what is happening and how so many 150,000 people plus died because of COVID over the past couple of years. And many of these people now who are looking at the government, who apparently were having parties with alcohol, with sandwiches, it bears really no consideration for people who have lost parents, who have lost friends, who have lost people dear to them, and they couldn't say goodbye because of the government restrictions. And probably the worst thing of the lot, on the night before Prince Philip's death last April and the funeral, they were partying again. So what on earth is going on in Parliament today? And I think the reality at the moment is there are some Great Britons in Great Britain, pardon the pun. Is Boris Johnson one of them? Well, there's a question mark over his authority right now. But at least Sir Keir Starmer, he may not appear to have the same ambivalence as really the Boris Johnson has, but in reality, he seems to be far more the man of the people at the moment. So we really raise our glass, pardon the pun again, to Sir Keir Starmer for really holding Boris Johnson's feet to the fire at the moment. And let's see what's going to happen next. It is rumoured that if the Metropolitan Police actually interview Boris Johnson under caution, in other words, there could be criminal charges laid against him in some way, all allegations at the moment. This will be the first Prime Minister ever in the whole history of Prime Ministers that has happened to. So my feeling at the moment is that don't give up on Great Britain, because Great Britain is great and we want to embrace all the communities. We want to see the value of people at the moment as well that come from all the communities across the world. But Boris Johnson, as I say, it leaves me slightly cold to say the least. But I do highlight the values at the moment of Sir Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, the opposition party, and how he is stoically trying to find out what has happened, and in reality, along with a lot of Conservative politicians from Boris Johnson's own party, trying to edge him out of that seat in Downing Street. Now today, he has edged out of that seat, but at the same time, you can see the confusion going on, because now he's in Ukraine today and he's talking to the president of Ukraine, and basically what's happening at the moment is leaders from all over Europe are descending on Ukraine at the moment, trying to show solidarity with what is going on during this terrible time when Russia, along with Belarus, are really lining up 100,000 troops. Is there going to be an invasion? Who knows at the moment? Who knows what Putin really thinks he is doing at the moment as well? Now, from what I understand, Britain is actually going to donate 80 million over a period to actually help shore up military opportunities and options for Ukraine during this time. So at least in one thing, he has moved from what I would term a slightly villainous nature to at least one of compassion and seeing to do the right thing with Britain, because we want to stand with Ukraine at the moment as well on this whole situation. Because what seems to be going on at the moment, from a British point of view, only from a British point of view, and from my point of view as well, there seems to be a lot of activity, and I understand political antics. I actually was one of the first journalists to be allowed into Russia and Moscow, particularly after Perestroika. So I wonder what has happened to the Russian people, who I found extremely pleasant to be around and work with at that time, like I do with the Albanians as well. So I think at the moment, the reality with something like this is that I hope nothing does happen, because this is a very, very dangerous time we feel in Britain, and we embrace all our friends from all the East European countries to actually help in a situation where we see in Britain that fairness is not happening to Ukrainian people. But we move on from that story and we move on to an incredible story. Just 7 months ago, 7 short months ago, Christian Eriksen, who was playing for Denmark in the Euros football matches, collapsed on a football pitch and allegedly almost died there because of heart failure. And play was stopped, obviously. The whole situation around him was very fragmented. I remember that a lot of the Denmark players were in tears, watching what was happening to their colleague. And it was one of the most terrible times that you could ever see in a football match. 7 months on, he's had an operation and he's had a heart pacemaker put in his heart now, and he appears to be raring to go again. I mean, how incredible is this man as a football player as well? Well, we're about to find out in London how good this gentleman is, because he's come to join Brentford FC, which is a Premier club in London, and now we will see him at the top of his game again, hopefully, healthy and really full of vigour, ready to take on the challenge once more. Now, the whole point of Great Britons is to highlight people not only who come from Britain, who were born in Britain, but who are now living in Britain as well, and the values that they bring. So I think, in reality, he should be heralded as another Great Britain at the moment. Why? Because look at the values he brings to young people, and he shows them that over all adversity, and the incredible amount of adversity he must have faced in the past 7 months to get fit enough again to play football. He is a shining example of what you can actually achieve in your life. So in my mind, he is now a Great Britain too. And finally, this is my favourite story for this week, is that the Guardian newspaper, a newspaper really what's known as left of centre in British politics, and so really supports the Labour Party, the opposition party in Parliament more than anything. They have decided to herald the values of Albanian tourism. And quite right too. I think the reality at the moment is that I'm very proud to work for an Albanian channel, ALB UK TV. And when I first went there with the owner, Halidon Castrati, I didn't know what to expect. We had gone over to actually fight a campaign that had been started by Sky News, really showing Albania at its worst. And I went there and my goodness, I found Albania at its best. But not only did I find the people wonderful, the country wonderful, the facilities in Tirana, hotels, the whole thing great. Then I went to Durrës. So Durrës has a place in my heart now, as a place that I know there's a lot of other cities, and guys, I haven't yet visited all of the Albanian tourist resorts, which I would love to do. Hint, hint to this TV channel. But I will do in the future. And I think the reality at the moment, I remember that several major magazines and travel websites were always saying that Albania was the best kept secret in Europe. Yes, you have 30 days, or I should say 300 days, not 30 days, 300 days of the year plus when you're in 30 degrees of heat plus at the same time. The people are wonderful, the beaches are wonderful, the hotels are wonderful, the food is wonderful. What is an incredible place to actually go to for a holiday. I love it. I love it to pieces. I really do. And I think the reality with something like this is that Albanians should be very proud of this. The only thing I would say is, for goodness sake, for Albania, talk about yourselves more. That's what's really needed these days. Talk more about Albania and Albanian tourism, because I think it is one of the best countries, and I used to really visit the world. I've been a journalist 55 years, so I've seen most of the world, and I really rate Albanian tourism so high. I love it to bits. So that's the first show, and I hope you've enjoyed this. We will be having a weekly show from now on called The Great Britain Show, in association with the Voice of London and ALB UK TV as well. And the aim behind the show is to highlight great people who may not all be British, but they work and they live in Great Britain, and they are helping to make Great Britain great. But apart from that, I also want to highlight the values of charities in Britain and see how many charities we can bring in the future, and get charities to talk about themselves and give themselves the platform to be able to talk about and highlight the good works that they're doing. And also I want to bring in as many communities as possible as well, and talk again about the values that communities bring to Britain. So that's my first show of the new year. I hope you've enjoyed it. So for me, Ian Pelham-Turner on ALB UK Television, this is the Voice of London, an association with the Great Britain Show. Have a great week, and I will see you next week. Goodbye for now.